So our 3A Division 1 and start with number 10. To Region 3 we go, and the East Chambers Buccaneers, fresh off of a quarterfinal run and a 1-point heartbreaking loss to eventual state champion Grandview. East Chambers does lose 21 seniors, and they're going to have to replace a lot on that defense that in many ways led the way for the Buccaneers last year. But I think that this team is reloaded. I think they got plenty of offense to make this thing hum, and I think that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with there in Region 3, which of course is loaded.
Yeah,
but,
and people forget how close that game was between them and Grandview late in the playoffs last year. And talking to Coach Ebner, he felt like the guys that are coming back are underrated, and the guys that left are not as hard to replace as you might think. He looks at the Buccaneers. He had me wondering if we had them ranked too low already out of the gate. That's how he was making it sound.
Number 9, a familiar foe or a familiar team to the rankings. The Franklin Lions, Coach Mike Hedrick is at it again, a new 300-game winner after a run to a regional semifinal, and of course, another close victim to Grandview in a regional semifinal. This is a team that brings back 9 starters overall. They feel really good about their running game with Datron Dixon leading the way, and more importantly, they've got some guys coming back from a 9-1 JV team. Franklin is number 9 in the 2019 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Our first Region 4 team clocks in at number 8. It's the Goliad Tigers. A regional semifinalist from last year came up short to Yoakum. This is a team that brings back 11 starters. They bring back a lot of guys that they feel like are going to make an impact for this team. Should be, I think, the level of expectation there in Goliad stays the same. They expect to contend for the Region 4 title. We think they will contend for the Region 4 title. The Goliad Tigers start the year number 8 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Number 7, to East Texas we go. The Gladewater Bears clock in at number 7 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football after an 11-2 season that came up short to Malakoff in a regional semifinal. This is a team that brings back a fair amount of their defense, which I think got better as the season went along and has a chance to be very good this year. I expect this team to be really solid. And solid in all the ways you expect Gladewater to be. They are tough. They are physical. They want to outman you. That is what's going to come up for Gladewater as they clock in at number 7 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Number 6. Let's talk about the Brock Eagles. They clock in at number 6, the state semifinalist from a year ago. This is a team that for the first time in a long time, we're talking maybe ever, literally ever, we might be talking about a rebuilding year for Brock. Bringing back just 5 starters from last year. They lose 19 outstanding lettermen that were so critical to that program's success over the last 4 years. But they've got one of the best coaches in the state, in Chad Worrell. He's going to get those boys going. We have questions because they do have so few returners coming back, but Brock will start the year number 5, or rather number 6 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football. To number 5 we go in 3A Division 1. Let's go south to Yoakum. The Bulldogs of Yoakum start the year number 5 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football, a state semifinalist from a year ago, and another team with a lot of rebuilding to do. They bring back just 5 starters from last year's team. 22 outstanding lettermen are gone. But again, kind of like Brock, we trust the coaching staff so much down there at Yoakum to get the guys they have on campus pointed in the right direction and to be a contender. We think they are a prime contender and arguably the team to beat in Region 4. Yoakum starts the year number 5 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Number 4, you thought they were just going to go away? The Cameron Yeomen clock in at number 4 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football. And last year, a run to a regional semifinal, that is, we thought was just the first step in kind of a redemption tour of Cameron Yo. I don't think they're going away. I think this is a team that does have some holes to fill, but I think that they've got a lot of guys on the offense that they feel really, really good about, and especially with reinforcements from an 8-2 JV team. We really like what Cameron Yo has coming back. They start the year number 4 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football.
Let's stir the pot a little bit.
Number 3. The Atlanta Rabbits start the year number 3 in Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and this is a team that got hot late and stayed hot. A team that ran all the way to a regional final last year after a pretty lackluster regular season. This was a team Matt Stepp and I were high on all year long. It started off really, really slow, but found their footing as the year went on. I love what Coach Matt McClure's got cooking there. I think that they've got a number of big-time offensive juggernaut playmakers like Cade Wood and Caleb Hamilton and Dre Nelson. This is the team that I think is a legit contender there in Region 2. Atlanta starts the year number 3 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Of course, to get out of Region 2, they'll have to get past number 2. The Malakoff Tigers, a state runner-up from a year ago, was, I think, a year early. A team that brings back so much from last year's team, especially on the defensive side. I think there's a fair chance that their defense is even better this season. I really love what Jamie Driscoll is building out there at Malakoff. Speed, and more speed. They've got a lot of guys, and in a lot of ways, I think they're going. If they can just stay healthier. If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. Malakoff starts the year number 2 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Which leads us to the number 1 team in 3A Division 2 to start the year in Dave Campbell's Texas football. The Grandview Zebras, the defending state champs, will start the year atop Dave Campbell's Texas football rankings, and it's easy to see why. They bring back 18 starters from last year's team. And I've got to tell you, a lot of these guys are juniors this year.
Yep.
They were arguably 2 years early last year.
Yep.
But love what they got the quarterback position in Dane Yench, who is, of course, the state championship game MVP on both sides. They have the Demetrius Crownover kid, who is really special. Mm-hmm. This is a loaded team. Even with a coaching change and Coach Ryan Ebner, look, you don't replace a guy like Brad Davis overnight, and I think Ryan Ebner would admit that. But he's a guy who knows that system, and these kids are super comfortable with. Max, I think you, in talking with him, you felt like there was a pretty smooth transition in the coaching change?
Very smooth transition, and I think the most important part of having Coach Davis last year and Ebner taking over now is they got there for the first time last year, and they talked so much about not getting lost in the moment. Mm-hmm. Well, that won't be hard now.
No.
They did everything that you could do on your first try, so now it's business as usual. Let's just go out there and keep winning football games, and that's bad news for the rest of 381.
And so the Grandview Zebras start the year number 1 in 3A Division 1 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Of course, remember expanded rankings in the 2019 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas football, top 25s for each region. Of course, predictions for every district in the state. We predict every team's place in their district, often much to the chagrin of the people reading the magazine, but that's our job. All right, let's get to 3A Division 2. 3A Division 2 now, and let's start with a team that I don't think people are paying a lot of attention to. Right off the bat, we're starting with a sleeper. Number 10, the Tidehaven Tigers clock in at number 10 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. A team with the very odd 7-7 record from a year ago, brings back 8 starters on both sides of the ball, including one of I think the rising stars in the state in Blake Garcia, their quarterback, who stepped in, was 4-1 as their starting quarterback last year. As he takes over the full-time gig, I think he's in for a big year. The defense led by Joey Kaser. If you don't know about this Tidehaven Tigers team, you should familiarize yourself. They're in a loaded Region 4, but we think that they are a team to be reckoned with. Tidehaven begins the year number 10 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Number 9, the Cisco Lobos, the first of a handful of Region 1 teams to be in the top 10 of Dave Campbell's Texas football. The Cisco Lobos start the year number 9 after a terrific regular season and then a baffling playoff loss to kind of Cinderella darling Spearman. This is a team that we think is going to be pretty solid. Now, they have some holes to fill, especially on the offensive side. That's a place that we have a little bit of concern for them. But Cisco is a team that you can set your watch by. Cisco will be a team to be reckoned with in Region 1. They start the year number 9 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Let's stay in Region 1. Let's talk about the number 8 Abernathy Antelopes, clocking in at number 8 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. A run to a state quarterfinal a year ago before falling to Canadian in one of the closest games Canadian played all year. They have holes to fill elsewhere, but they have the most important part back, and that's quarterback Bryson Daly. Pretty much a 4-year starter there for Abernathy. We think that they are going to ride him all the way to a deep, deep run. Keep an eye on Abernathy. They start the year number 8 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. From Region 1 to Region 2, let's talk about the number 7 Clifton Cubs. After a fantastic year under Coach Chuck Caniford last year, we think that they are in for even bigger things after an 11-1 season. Last year came up very short, or just short, to Holliday in an area round. This is a team bringing back 11 starters from last year's team. Feels like they're going to be very strong because of an outstanding senior class returning that got a taste of what success is like. We think they're in for more. Clifton starts the year number 7 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. The team that knocked out Clifton starts the year number 6. That's the Holliday Eagles, clocking at number 6 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. A run to a state quarterfinal a year ago. This is a team that brings back 13 starters, and we feel like has a lot of guys in the backfield that are going to be great. actually a pretty decent amount of depth on the defense as well. I really like what Holliday's got coming back. If they can fill in a little bit of places on the offensive and defensive line, they could really, really cook. Holliday starts the year number 6 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Into the top 5. To East Texas we go, and the Daingerfield Tigers are number 5 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. 9-4 a year ago, brings back half their team. Six starters on both sides of the ball, and a team that I think got better as the year went on. A team that it depended on where you when you played them, but a team you did not want to catch late. A team that, of course, is going to have a ton of speed, and we think is going to have a lot of big time playmakers coming up for them, especially out of coming off of a 10-0 undefeated JV team. So keep an eye on Daingerfield. Really like what they have cooking. They're number 5 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Number 4. It's the Gunter Tigers, a 14-1 team a year ago. They've got some of the pieces that you really like, especially I think that they've still got a lot of guys on the defense, plus I believe Ethan Everson, their quarterback, is back for another run. But they are losing some transcendent playmakers who helped shape this program, most notably Dylan Jantz, who's at
Texas State.
Thank you. Dylan Jantz is gone. They're going to need to replace some playmakers. We have the utmost respect for Jake Fizzell here. We are Jake Fizzell stands. And I will say that there are a few coaches in the state that I would trust with a rebuild, quote unquote, than Jake Fizzell. Gunter starts the year number 4 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. Number 3, to Region 4 we go once again. The favorite Region 4, the East Bernard Brahmas. And this could be the year for the Brahmas. I really love what they have coming back after a very narrow semifinal loss to eventual state champion Newton. This is a team that I think is loaded for bear. That slot T offense is really hard to stop, and you know the style of defense they're going to play. Hard-hitting, physical, and separate you from the football. They have some holes to fill on the defensive side, and I want to see what they do up front offensively. But East Bernard, in my mind, starts the year as the favorite to come out of Region 4. They start the year number 3 in Dave Campbell's Texas football.
By the way, you were wrong about Everson. He's gone too.
Oh my gosh, he's gone too.
So Gunter's going to have a lot of new faces.
Gunter's has some new faces. And now kind of the question, right? Because there's 2 teams left, and I think anybody who pays attention to 3A Division 2 understands who these 2 teams are.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that this was a huge debate.
It's probably the biggest one we had.
This was the biggest rankings debate we had in when we were putting together the magazine. We went back and forth. We argued about it. But here we go. The number 2 team in Dave Campbell's Texas football, the Canadian Wildcats, the state runner-up from a year ago, brings back a lot of the defense. But they do have to replace a quarterback. They have to replace some key pieces on the offensive side. That said, this is a team that wakes up, that rolls out of bed and wins 14 games. I mean, well, Chris Ketting has somehow found a way to be one of the more underrated coaches in the state.
Yeah.
This Canadian team is going to be in the mix. This is a team that we have predicted to go back to another state championship game. They start the year the favorite in a loaded Region 1, absolutely loaded Region 1. They start the year number 2 in Dave Campbell's Texas football, and if you want to put them number 1, I wouldn't blame you. But that leaves the number 1 team in the state, the defending state champs, 2-time defending state champs, the Newton Eagles. So Newton's got some rebuilding to do themselves. In fact, they lose one of the most decorated senior classes, I think, in the state at any level. I mean, when you talk about the guys that they're losing, most notably, they lose Josh Foster, they lose Darwin Barlow, they lose a lot of those key guys who have made those.
James Sylvester's back.
Yes, they do bring back James Sylvester, and they feel like they have a lot of guys who are ready to step up and be those playmakers, the guys who are going to step up. And so, in a lot of ways, I'll pull back the curtain on these rankings. I think it's Newton. I think Newton and East Bernard, or rather Newton and Canadian, are in a class by themselves, in my opinion. I think those are consensus the number 1 and number 2 teams in 3A Division 2, and I do not fault anybody who wants to switch those. In the end, we looked at what each team is replacing, and we saw it's pretty similar. As far as an impact is concerned of what these teams are replacing. As a result, what ended up being the tiebreaker in our conversation is you got to give the nod to the defending champs. That's basically the only thing separating these 2 teams. We think that they are. We think they're destined for a rematch at AT&T Stadium. But the Newton Eagles start the year number 1 in Dave Campbell's Texas football in 3A Division 2.